Okay, welcome. I'm Steve Lemongello. This is Orlando Sentinel's Politics Now. It's a busy week, obviously, after the Florida primary. We'll be talking with a representative from the Orange County League of Women Voters. We're talking about what's next for the state Republican Party and Marco Rubio. Doing social media with Kayla O'Brien. We'll take a look at the latest campaign videos. And, of course, winners and losers with Scott Maxwell. And let's take a look now at our headlines for the week. And, of course, the biggest headline, of course, is the results of Tuesday's Florida primaries, the presidential primaries for the Republicans and the Democrats. Donald Trump with a huge victory with the Republicans, and Hillary Clinton with not a similar huge victory over Bernie Sanders on the Democratic side. Also, Marco Rubio, the same night as the Florida primary, he had said all day he would not be dropping out, but pretty much very quickly into his concession speech on Tuesday night, he said that he would be suspending his campaign. And the final thing that happened this week of importance, yesterday, the day after the Florida primary, so it was a little too late to actually affect the voting, Florida Governor Rick Scott appeared on Facebook and said that Florida Republicans should now coalesce behind Donald Trump in order to end, quote unquote, Republican on Republican violence, unquote. Okay, and we're now here with Carol Davis, who is the second vice president for the League of Women Voters in Orange County. Nice to meet you, Carol.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about what is the League?
Well, the League of Women Voters is a civic organization. Our main purpose is to educate the public about how to vote, when to vote, where to vote. And we also, our main purpose really is to work through our programs. And one of our programs is elections and making sure that the public knows everything they need to know about voting. I am also the Voter Services Chairman, so I register voters.
Yeah, and talk a little bit about what you guys do in terms of voter education.
Well, in terms of voter education, we have three main things. We do hot topics, and that's usually an issue that the local people are very interested in. It's a luncheon on the second Wednesday of every month, and it's at it's downtown Orlando. Our second most important thing is to have candidate forums. We are available to all organizations to conduct candidate forums, and our candidate forums are modeled after the, I guess you'd say we always have to have the people from both main parties. And our third most important thing is the voter guide. Our voter guide for local candidates will be up online by June, and that will be for the August primary. We go out, we survey all of the candidates who have filed, and they answer our survey. We write the questions, and they answer our survey, and we put it online for all of the potential voters in Orange County.
All right, and you guys are also studying the effectiveness of open primaries, possibly in Florida, because right now there are closed primaries. In order to vote in the presidential primary on Tuesday, you'd have to be either a registered Democrat or Republican a month before. So you guys have been looking into the possibility of, like, could open primaries work?
Yes, the League of Women Voters has a very specific kind of program. And the way we work a program, the first part is called the study. We go out and we research we researched for open primaries and closed primaries. We researched all of the types of primaries that are available in the country. And we have open, closed, semi-closed, we have top two. So we really wanted to look at open primaries because in Orange County, there are 193 non-affiliate registered voters. That's a large number of voters who cannot vote in the presidential primary.
And as Beth Kassab said in her column this week, they're also paying for these primaries with their tax dollars, and they can't vote in them.
Yes, we had a lot of shocked voters on Tuesday. Some of them thought that there was something wrong with their ballot. They brought it back to us and said, where are the presidential candidates? We had to explain to them that Florida is a closed primary state. That means you have to identify on your registration form which party you want to be affiliated with. Because I do voter registration, I get a lot of people, young people in particular, who say, I don't want to be a part of a party. I don't want anybody calling me. I don't want anybody sending me anything. So they didn't register with a party. So they were shocked when they got their ballot and discovered that they could not vote. And some of them got angry, but not to the point of causing any problems, because we were there. It's a League of Women Voters precinct, to explain to them how Florida works as a closed primary. So now everybody wants to go out and get registered, but it'll be the next 4 years before we'll have another presidential preference primary.
Now, do you think that it's possible that Florida would ever move to an open primary?
We are studying it. It does take a lot of time and effort for us to put all of our information together, get our data, and then we'll go to Tallahassee when we do what we call our advocacy. And we will actually go in and we will talk to the legislators and see which legislators are for it, which legislators are against it. And it may take a little while to get it done, but we really want to see if that would increase the number of people voting. Right now it's about 40%. We've got to get a larger number of people to vote, and we're hoping that open primaries would be the answer.
Well, great. Thank you so much. Carol Davis with the League of Women Voters in Orange County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and of course the big news this week, especially here in Florida, is what happened with Marco Rubio. Now, Marco Rubio, he was essentially the last Florida man standing in the, if you don't count Donald Trump of Mar-a-Lago, in the Republican primary. But on Tuesday night, he insisted all day that he would not drop out if he did badly in Florida. He insisted that he was going to go to Utah the next few days. But of course, he was just a few minutes into his concession speech. He had started talking about his campaign in the past tense and getting very emotional. And of course, he said that he would drop out. But what happens now, though, for the state Republican Party? What happens now to all the various Rubio backers, many of whom were once Jeb Bush backers before he dropped out last month? I talked with several people yesterday. Ben Newman, who is the Central Florida chair for the Rubio campaign in Central Florida, he had said that he doesn't believe that Rubio will be sort of jumping onto any sort of endorsement quite soon. Rubio seemed to imply in Minnesota yesterday that Ted Cruz is the only conservative, quote unquote, left in the race. But Newman did not believe that while Rubio said he would back Trump if Trump was the nominee, he doesn't think that Rubio will be sort of getting quite on board so quickly. And that's what a lot of people have also said locally with Republicans, too. I talked with Lou Oliver, who is the chair of the Orange County Republican Executive Committee. He said that, if and when Trump actually becomes the nominee, then pretty much Republican Party loyalty is very, very good. And he thinks that a lot of people will start to jump on board. But of course, what really matters, of course, is winning. If it looks like the Republican has a chance of beating the Democrat in the fall, he thinks that, Florida Republicans, Central Florida Republicans will line up behind that nominee, whoever he is. If, however, it looks like the nominee is not doing as well, then he says that maybe people will sort of support, but they won't support it that much. So the level of support, as again, depends on, what's happening in the general. Also, the question has been asked, will Rubio now jump back into the race for U.S. Senate? He had stopped running for U.S. Senate for re-election for his seat after he decided to run for election as in the presidential race. Now, he has like a few months to do so. There's already, of course, a bunch of Republicans who are already running already to succeed him. You have Ron DeSantis, a congressman, David Jolly. There's Carlos Baruf, a businessman out of Tampa. So it's not like these people would possibly just step out of the way if Rubio were to jump back in. And it's quite possible, as several political science professors told me yesterday, it's quite possible Rubio might not actually win the primary if he were to jump back in. So and as one political science professor told me yesterday, you don't want to go down the road of people who are running constantly for election over and over and over again. And then she sort of name dropped Charlie Crist into that conversation. So it's still a question. Rubio's sort of making his rounds right now in Minnesota yesterday, so we'll see what happens with him and his political future. Now, earlier today, we talked with our social media person, Kayla O'Brien. We talked with her about some of the latest campaign commercials with the campaign. videos, of course, and there are less of them now as the campaign goes on.
Yes, exactly. Every week it gets easier because I can really focus in on the good stuff and get rid of all the other candidates. So every week we narrow it down. So first off, we're starting with Hillary Clinton, and we're not going to actually see her in this video. It's Bill only. Former President Bill Clinton is campaigning for her. And, you know, he was in Rollins College just last week, and she did not make an appearance there. And now this video that she posted on her Facebook page has Bill narrating all his speeches for her. You don't see her, you see her name on the podium, but that's about it. So I thought that was an interesting choice, really appealing to the people who liked Bill as a president and that might remember him and say, okay, well, if he's good, then she must be okay too. So it's interesting. I thought that was a different choice for the candidate. Up next is Bernie Sanders, and he's appealing to an audience that often doesn't get much coverage with these presidential elections, 17-year-olds. So here's his video. So it's that fast-moving type of pictures, gets really to the point quickly. So he's basically saying if you're 17 but you still want to vote and you're turning 18 before the general election, you're able to do so. And so maybe people that agree with his message but aren't, 18 yet, they can go out and vote. He's really hoping for those young voters because that's his big area of.
And he just won a court case in Ohio about this, yes.
Yeah, so that's interesting too. Donald Trump's got a video as well. This is on his Instagram page. It's a little bit jarring. The images are shocking, I think, so let's play that. So we see Putin, we see ISIS, and then he puts Hillary Clinton barking and kind of makes it a point saying that we don't want to be a punchline. It's an attack ad with not too many details. There's no narration at all. It's just title and then Hillary Clinton. So the three people you see in it: Hillary Clinton, Vladimir Putin, and an ISIS member.
Yeah.
So.
And apparently the Kremlin has told the Trump campaign they really don't want to be involved in this sort of thing in the future. So.
I mean, that makes sense.
I don't blame
It seems
them,
to make
actually.
sense. Yes, exactly. And speaking of Donald Trump, this is duckingdonald.com. It's sponsored by Ted Cruz. And basically it shows Donald Trump right here in a caricature of a duck sitting on a pile of money. And basically you can sign this website, put your name and email and zip code, and it's a petition because he's ducking Donald because he keeps dropping out of debates. And there was a Salt Lake City debate that he dropped out of, then Kasich dropped out of. So Ted Cruz is saying, force Donald Trump into having a debate with me. And this is his new website, Ducking Donald, and he created a hashtag too to go along with it. So that's his new. It's Cruz Crew and Ducking Donald. Those are his two hashtags this week.
I was wondering when we see Scrooge McDuck imagery in the election, and here we go.
Here it is. Yes, finally it's been brought into the race. And then finally we have a celebrity. Oh, okay. Well, let's search really quick for John Kasich. So he had a friend come on, and you might recognize him as Arnold Schwarzenegger. And he actually came on and did a little video for John Kasich. Let's scroll down to it. It was right before the primary, so he was just telling everyone to go out and vote, and he actually included his dogs in it, and here it is. Oh, and the dog agrees too. That John Kasich's a good governor.
Well,
so
he was just sitting on a stairwell there.
Yes, very
why
relaxed.
not, right?
He's putting his input in, but not going out and getting makeup and getting a suit on. He's like, I'm just gonna, campaign from my living room.
It's an average day at the Schwarzenegger household.
Exactly. So we're probably gonna see more celebrity endorsements like this in the near future. I have a feeling.
Well, great, and thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
All right, and thanks we're here with Kayla now, who's been following the different campaign videos. And now we're here with columnist Scott Maxwell, who's here to talk about his winners and losers of the week in politics.
All right, thank you, Steve. For our loser of the week, it is Marco Rubio, but it's not for the obvious reason that he technically is a loser this week. It's because of what you talked about a little bit, Steve. A few minutes ago, people are now asking the question of whether he could even win his own Senate seat. Think about that for a minute. On Monday of this week, he was one of the final four candidates on the Republican side for President of the United States. By midweek, they're talking about whether he could even hold on to his seat. That's pretty sad. And the reason for that is it is hard to overstate how badly he got drubbed in these races. He lost his home state by 20 points, basically. That's supposed to be a given when you run. This is the people who've already voted for you. He did that. But you go beyond beyond Florida, and it was even more pathetic. In Missouri, Rubio got 6%. In Ohio, he got 3%. Steve, I'm pretty sure we could put you on the ballot, and you'd get better than 3% in Ohio. That wasn't Rubio. So he did really poorly. And what part of the problem is what started as a campaign of optimism that was based on talking about his childhood story. By the end, he's talking about Donald Trump's genitalia. Even he started to say he was embarrassed by that. I'm not sure I buy that he was embarrassed. By the way, if he'd gone up 1 point in the poll, I think he would have loved it. But he said he was embarrassed by that. What I think people took away from that was that he was a phony, that he would say or do anything. He could be crude. And the bottom line is he comes out of this a little bit worse than he was before. And when he's trying to build a brand, and that's really what Rubio is all about, his brand, that's a problem. Can he rebound? Anything's possible. I mean, we've had people be indicted and get elected again. That's for sure. But right now, I think he's a loser. As for winners, I have several, and I'm going to start with a rather personal one. We're going to play my former colleague and buddy, Mike Thomas, former Orlando Sentinel columnist. I think you know, actually, he's left the Sentinel, and he's now a member, or about to be a member of the Maitland City Council. That's hard for me to wrap my head around, but congratulations to you. And I actually have a more serious reason for that. Also, Carolyn Cooper for getting elected to the Winter Park City Commission. Why do I mention these two? Because both of these candidates had just a barrage of nasty, big money, outside money ads thrown their way in the final days. And I like it when gutter politics get beaten back. And Carolyn Cooper and Mike Thomas both withstood that and got elected, so that's a good one. But my big winner for the week isn't even actually political in nature. That is SeaWorld, and that's for the news that we've been talking about today. And you may know they ended their breeding program for their orcas, ultimately about 20 years. But the big reason they're a winner is that today they have gotten something they haven't gotten since Tilikum killed Don Brancho. They've had good press. They've had good press most all day long. They actually had the CEO of SeaWorld sitting next to the CEO of the Humane Society on CBS this morning today. They basically have their arms around each other. The CBS anchors said that it would look like a bromance where they're praising each other. Think about that. The Humane Society now praising SeaWorld. They've been demonizing them for years. By the end of the CBS segment, they actually took those two CEOs and said, could we maybe send you guys to Washington to use you as an example on how Democrats and Republicans. That's a big turnaround for CEO, and as I last checked before, their stock's up 7% today. So that's why I'm going to say SeaWorld's our big winner for the week.
Well, thank you so much, Scott Maxwell, winners and losers. This is Steve Lemongello with the Sentinel for Politics Now. Make sure to follow us on the web and in print, orlandosentinel.com.